The very fine people hoax?
I mean, I remember the line. Yeah,
Trump never called Nazis fine people.
He said there were very fine people on both sides.
Except the neo-Nazis and white nationalists who should be condemned totally.
He said that?
Yeah. I'm not surprised that you don't know, but yes, he did.
It's like a racial purge of the government. It's really bizarre. They're trying to like resegregate the country.
Where did that happen where they were firing black people?
I mean, I don't know the names off the top of my head, but
yeah, I just don't even know. It's just happening. Just trust me, bro. It's totally a thing.
Yeah.
That sounds not true.
I mean, yeah.
Because like I'll put it this way.
Yeah, I made it up. It's not true. You're right.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Culture War. We got a special episode today. It's not necessarily about a core issue. It's we're being joined by Adam Conover.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, man. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a comedian. I've made a couple television shows in the past, did a true TV show, did a Netflix show. I'm a stand-up comic. I'm going to be in Charleston, South Carolina this weekend, and you guys invited me. Thought I'd swing by.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
You had what year was that show, Adam Ruins Everything?
It first came out in 2015, I think, and ran until 2019. We did like 4 or 5 cycles of it.
My mom loved your show.
Oh.
And I think she watched regularly. I watched a handful, to be honest. I'm not going to.
That's fine.
But you did have one really good one on gun control. I thought was good because you pointed out Reagan was the start of gun control. And you had probably one of the most, I think, honest portrayals when you had a Black Panther and like a white rural fat guy, both being like, yes, guns.
Yeah.
So this is kind of funny to me because Tim is totally not getting this right. Like Tim is basically making this argument that this was somehow about unity or something like that. And all these people came together to show how in support they are of the Second Amendment. When in reality, the whole episode was basically about maligning the pro-gun movement and making it seem as if pro-gun advocates really only care about gun control when white people are having their guns taken away from them. But if black people have their guns taken away from them, all these white pro-Second Amendment advocates really don't actually care about it anymore, which is really like not at all historically accurate. But that was obviously like the lib shit position that Adam Conover had in that episode. And Tim just doesn't get it, which is funny to me.
Because we often see this depiction where it's like racists are mad, like they lump all 2A people in with like all white supremacists or whatever. Yeah. And they try and act like conservatives are mad that black people have guns. And it's like the 2A guys are.
That was essentially the exact point that what you just said right there, Tim, is literally what Adam was trying to do in that episode. You just didn't seem to really understand it.
The 2A guys are not racist. It's a totally different ideology.
Well, yeah, we made the point in that video, though, that, those people tend not to defend like black people who are
Exactly my point. This is the exact point he was trying to make. There's a double standard here. The NRA doesn't care about black people's gun rights, which is not actually correct. You can find examples that have led to Supreme Court decisions where the NRA backed black people who are having their rights infringed. This is just complete fabrication, just a complete liberal retcon of history.
Those people tend not to defend like black people who are the Philandro Castile case, right, was one of the ones that we talked about.
What? Dude, the Philandro Castile case, a police officer making a mistake and accidentally shooting a suspect has what exactly to do with any of the things that we're talking about?
But that's,
that actually was a really interesting case too, because there were a lot of people on the right. For people who don't know, the guy got pulled over. I think he was smoking weed. He had a gun. He didn't draw it or anything, but the cop just shot and killed him.
I believe what happened. This
is a situation where an officer made a mistake. I don't think anybody on the right defended the officer, but they said, I'm sure, that it was a mistake. The officer didn't pull the guy over with the intent of killing him. The guy said, oh, I have a gun on me. I have a concealed carry permit. And then the officer thought that the guy was going for the gun and overreacted. Like, no one really defended the cop's behavior.
I believe what happened. This is so many years ago. And I've done so many things that like my memory for stuff like this isn't as good as it used to be, but I believe he said, like, officer, I have a firearm, and which is what you're supposed to do. And the officer shot him, I think, at that point.
Yeah, like he did.
I love how they like oversimplify what actually happened and completely like do some revisionism. The cop made a mistake and thought the guy was going for the gun. It wasn't just like, oh, officer, I have a concealed carry permit on me. And then the cop just pulls out his gun and shoots the suspect. Like, that's not what happened.
Didn't draw it or anything.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see the rift between.
He like had it stored in the car properly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that,
I think he had it on him, but whatever.
He like had it stored in the car properly. Yeah.
yeah. And then a lot of conservatives were like, yeah, well, he shouldn't have been smoking weed. And I'm like, whoa. Like, yes, but you don't die because you're armed. You have a right to keep and bear arms. So that was an interesting contrast. But anyway, that was, you got a lot of praise from the Pro 2A people because they were like, hey, this guy.
No, he didn't. He did not at all. Tim, what are you thinking?
He's being honest. It's like, there are Pro 2A people. They're not all going to be racist, white supremacists or whatever. But anyway, I digress. Well, let's jump into the current state of affairs. We've got a second Trump administration, non-consecutive. What's your take on what is currently happening politically and culturally?
Damn. Yeah, I mean, you're going to disagree. Your audience is going to disagree. It's
that's the point, right?
It's hard. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, Tim Pool destroys woke comedian. It's fine. You can start the clip at this point if you're doing your response videos,
Thank you. No, I think I'm going to cover the other stupid stuff that's already been said about the Second Amendment. But okay, sure. Good. Thanks for the advice, though.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty clear fascist authoritarian takeover of the U.S. government,
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it's totally all those things. All the bad things.
It's we got people being thrown into unmarked vans. We got like the destruction of the civil service, which is like a pretty standard authoritarian tactic, like early on in a administration of that type. Yeah, it's like sort of remains to be seen how far they'll get, and if they'll actually be able to transform in America in the ways that they're trying to. But yeah, it's pretty. My side of America, people are a little on edge. It's a little frightening to folks.
Yeah, my take on that would be largely because corporate press is lying to them, largely. And
what corporate press? There's no corporate press left, hardly.
Well, I would.
What does that mean? Okay. All the TV networks, cable news, TV, newspapers. Okay. Not really quite sure what you're going for there.
But still, when you look at, there was a Real Clear Politics aggregate polling found that they didn't do it necessarily by demographic. They did it by decade age bracket. So it was like 20 to 29 or whatever. Every age group except for 70 plus was pro-Trump. Was a few points above.
Real Clear Politics did an average, and they said that every age group in America,
for 70 plus,
every age group except for 70 plus is pro-Trump.
Yeah, let me see if I can try and find it.
And this is contrasting to like all the approval rating stats I've seen have him at like 47% and dropping or something that.
It's largely based on the older crowd.
Just old. That seems like the opposite of every stat I've seen in the past. But I don't follow those really closely.
Yeah, I don't know how to find this image because it was a few weeks ago. But let me see if I can try and pull it up and talk at the same time, which I probably can't. But I don't actually. Do you want to see if you can try and find it while we talk? Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here typing.
No problem.
Out of my mind. Yeah. So what I would say is like the obvious story. We debated this last week live is the Abrego Garcia story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the take that I've typically seen from liberals is actually I'll use a specific example. The David Pakman subreddit. Pakman, of course, has millions of followers. He gets 100 million views per month. And his audience on Reddit was saying, this is just a family man who was trying to escape harsh conditions in Central America, who has been effectively disappeared by the Trump administration, which is a gross mischaracterization of what happened. If we were to say that a judge granted Abrego Garcia withholding of deportation due to Barrios 18 in Guatemala and threats against his life in El Salvador, then the question of due process is he needed to get a hearing as pertaining to that withholding of deportation. But he did already have two hearings in which he was determined to be an MS-13 gang member. He was pulled over and law enforcement believed him to be human trafficking. He has 2 filings from his wife for beating her. She was filing orders of protection. And so it's fine if, in my view, the liberal side of things, or the, podcasters like Pac-Man and Brian Tyler Cohen and others are going to say, hey, he was supposed to get a hearing, agreed. But it is a gross mischaracterization. So when you mention that, people on the left are on edge, I'm like, yeah, well, they think that a guy who lives in Maryland who was working like a regular union job or whatever just disappeared one day, as opposed to a guy who had gone through several hearings, was arrested with MS-13, had symbols on his hand that law enforcement believe were MS-13 gang tattoos. And so the real question is, what was the error in that deportation? On the right, it's legally called harmless error, in that he didn't get a hearing as to the withholding of deportation. However, he wouldn't have got it approved anyway. So the answer now is a formality. It's paperwork, it's a Zoom call, and then it's done. But people on the left, the liberal side of things, they think that this is a working class family guy who's vanished one night, an American citizen. And I think it was actually Hassan.
Well, people don't think he's an American citizen. I mean, they're up to speed on like
Hassan Piker thought he was from Maryland. Legit, and so
okay.
we're talking, and I know it's not you, but this is like the 7th biggest live streamer in the country. Almost every single day, Hassan gets 50K, and he actually said on his stream in response to the comments I made at the White House, "What do you mean he's not from Maryland? Are you saying he's from DC? He's from Maryland." No, he's from El Salvador. He only lived in Maryland for a few years.
Okay, I mean, that guy talks for 8 hours a day. Like, you can parse any particular
For sure
statement, but like, I mean, that to me, everything that you said. First of all, half of it sounds unrelated. Like, he's had past interaction with law enforcement, like domestic violence and stuff like that. To me, that's like neither here nor there. It's like character stuff. I don't really give a shit about like the character of the guy, and I didn't think that was a big part of the story. It was like the
right, but the only reason why you don't care about it is because it makes your case look bad. It makes it look like you're defending a wife beater, human trafficker. That's why, if it was someone that you didn't want to be in the country, you would bring that stuff up in a heartbeat. And Tim is right about his characterization of this. People like Adam Conover basically think that Garcia was just disappeared by Trump's Gestapo. It's essentially what they think. In reality, he went to several different courts. The Supreme Court saw his case. The only mistake was that they deported him to a country that a previous judge had found that he could potentially be persecuted in that country, and the judge didn't agree with that. That was the only real mistake that was made. He could have been deported to literally any other country. Nobody on Adam's side really knows all the details about this story.
I don't really give a shit about like the character of the guy, and I didn't think that was a big part of the story. It was like the fact that he did not, receive due process before being, rendered to a prison, like this bizarre prison in El Salvador. Like that's the strange part.
That's right? El Salvador's government with an El Salvadoran citizen. That's not our purview.
I mean, he's like sent directly to this like gigantic, complex. It's in a like highly public way, in a way where like the administration, is making a show of their refusal to, follow the law. It's bizarre to witness, and like this sort of narrow legalistic. Oh, he had a hearing. He was da 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 da. It's irrelevant to like the purposeful spectacle of the Trump administration. Sending this guy who they admit they should not have done this, but they're like, we don't give a shit. We're doing it just because we hate guys like this, and we want like even people who are in the country legally to, be afraid and to self-deport. Yeah. Like it seems like a.
I mean, this is just all your opinion. No one said anything to that effect. It's just all your opinion. And it's funny that like liberals were saying for the longest time, the liberals were saying that the guy was dead. We sent him to some concentration camp. They were using that term. We sent him to a concentration camp. He's probably already dead. They just totally make shit up. It's just complete make-believe, la la land type stuff.
Here's what just happened right now. The executive courts, this is what they have, their immigration courts, should conduct a Zoom meeting with Abrego Garcia, and we're done. It's over. That's his due process. Look, he's an El Salvadoran citizen in El Salvador who was imprisoned by El Salvador.
My point.
Guys like this don't care about any of these things. the withholding of removal order potentially being challenged, they don't really care about that. They don't care about how the order can be challenged, and if it was rescinded, he could stay in El Salvador. They don't care about any of that. Trump is evil and racist. That's basically the level of sophistication of their argument. They don't care about any of these other fucking details.
The reason there's any number of things that they could do. There's some things that both of us agree that they should do. There's more things that I think they should do than you do, but et cetera. The point is, they are like loudly and proudly not doing any of that, deporting a guy they know shouldn't be deported.
But hold on, that's not true in any of the media. The media, the full reporting that we get across the board from the New York Times to CNN to even Fox News was he was accidentally deported without his hearing on withholding. So it wasn't an intentional, we're going to get this guy and get him out. It was crap.
So when Trump is like holding up photos of his tattoos with like MS-13 on it, and like they're giving press conferences about he beat his weather in character, assassination on the guy, like all of that is accidental.
No, that's a political attack against Democrats.
Yeah, right. So here, let me just get to the end of my point, okay? Is that, they turn it into a political attack because they are acting lawlessly. They're proud to be acting lawlessly. The point is to demonstrate on this issue we will act lawlessly. You're not safe if you are, even under the protection of a court order in this country, and you should be frightened and you should leave. It's just like it's an authoritarian attack against immigrants directly, and it's designed. It's a leverage of it's a leveraging of the state to try to frighten immigrants and other groups, not only illegal immigrants. Okay, so let's talk about the students who have been detained and deported, right? These are people who are under student visas, right? They appear at a protest or two, and they're thrown into vans, they're held in these bizarre facilities. They're blah blah. There's multiple cases.
If you want to say
the point of this is to frighten people at universities, pro-Palestinian protesters, and that means any protester on the left, of course, and C, immigrants of all types, including those who are here on legal immigrant visas. Like the details of the individual cases don't matter. They like creating a firestorm around someone who is here legally, creating a huge controversy about them, and then saying, we don't give a fuck. We're going to do whatever we want to these people because we want you to be afraid, right? But that's not, and that to me that's an expression of like pure authoritarianism. It's a leveraging of state power to frighten, undergroups in society that these people don't like. It's like very straightforward. We can mount as many legal defenses as we want of it and say, blah, 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 according to this statute or that statute. But the actual action is just designed to frighten people Trump doesn't like. And it's bizarre to see him do it.
Let's say yes, but none of that's illegal. That's all actually codified law that they're allowed to do.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's fucking bullshit. It sucks. It's bad. It's
bullshit that the State Department can deport non-citizens. Oh, okay, cool. These people are basically just saying there's no point in having a nation. There's no point in having borders. There's no point in having sovereignty. None of these things actually matter. Like anyone should just be able to come here for whatever reason and just stay regardless of how they behave when they're here. Okay.
It's bad for the country. It's bad for the American spirit.
We can talk about a lot of bad things that every administration's done in the past that liberals and Democrats have covered up or participated in or didn't argue against.
Yeah, I guess why. I mean, we're talking about this one currently. It feels disingenuous to talk about one thing the Trump administration is doing because Democrats have done bad things too?
Well, like, for instance, Donald Trump, through Marco Rubio specifically, revoking student visas, saying that these individuals represent a threat to our national security by adhering to our enemies. And literally, that's what they're claiming. I think it's ridiculous to claim that a student who's anti-Israel is working with Hamas. That's silly. But that's the argument he's making, and under the INA, he has the authority to do it. So you say, okay, well, when people come in here on student visas, they do sign agreements saying they won't do certain things. They do it. They get kicked out.
So this is okay with you because it's narrowly legal under Marco Rubio's purview?
I would say what's fine with me is the revocation of a visa for someone who's not a citizen who's here conditionally. Like Mohammed Khalil, who was on a conditional temporary visa. So if it gets revoked, I just say that's a conditional visa. I don't go to Singapore and spit on the ground. I'll get caned.
So sorry. You think what's happened to those students is like that's okay with you? Not legally. I'm talking about like as an event that occurred in the country. You're like, oh, it's good that happened. It's okay with me. You think it's moral. You think it's right. You think it's just. I'm not talking about legally. I'm talking about like you say you don't.
60%?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's basically just. I mean, if you come to our country and you basically are more or less supporting enemies of the country, or you're criticizing the country, or criticizing allies of the country, like, I can't really be that upset when you get kicked out. I mean, if I went to another country and tried to become a citizen of that country, and while I was staying there as a resident, I did nothing but shit all over their country, and they're like, you know what? We don't want you here. Get the fuck out. I mean, I kind of can't blame them.
60%.
Yeah, like nothing's so easily black and white.
Rumeysa Ozturk, who, she wrote an op-ed. The only thing that anybody has even claimed that she's done is she wrote an extremely mild op-ed in her campus newspaper asking that the college, like, sort of consider, being supportive of the Palestinian cause in some vaguely defined way.
Yeah.
Her visa's revoked. She, we've all seen the video, right? People come and like grab her and literally put her into a vehicle.
She was arrested.
They're wearing masks, right? I mean, she's stopped in an alarming way on the street, right?
It's not like they filmed that and published that footage, though. That was security camera footage.
Yeah,
People
but
got a hold.
they did it in if you want a student, like a young woman, there's other ways to arrest them than have 6 people show up wearing masks, surround her in a pincer formation. Like it's designed to create terror. So like
They don't have to do it that way. Agreed.
Okay, great.
They didn't have, and Biden's DOJ didn't need to show up at Roger Stone's house at 4 in the morning.
And you know what? If you want to bring up another example, I'll say I condemn that as well.
Agreed.
If that'll keep us on this topic for a second.
Do you actually believe that, though, Adam? Or are you just saying that? Yeah, I totally condemn that as well. Sure, buddy.
We've had numerous instances across administrations that have acted similarly.
Okay, so let's stay on Rumeysa Ozturk. Why do you think that? Like, what was the administration's purpose? Not the legal argument for whether they can do it or not.
Israel.
What? Yeah. Okay. So
It's literal Israel, and it's absurd that they'd argue. What they're doing when it comes to these students is they're saying they're a threat to our national security, and that's. I mean, it's.
Do you think she was a threat to the national security?
It's technically the truth, which is the best kind of the truth, in that. Yes, opposing U.S. alliance with Israel is bad. Rallying in any meaningful way students to oppose Israel is bad for the U.S. foreign policy. But come on. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's a fair way of saying it. Like, I mean, for better or worse, the way the laws are written, the State Department basically holds complete authority in terms of non-citizens if they are behaving in a way that is in conflict with American national security or foreign policy interests. Like, that's essentially the way that the laws are written. And you may disagree with that, but that's the way the laws are written. And if you decide to come to our country and say something that is essentially critical of America or one of America's allies, yeah. Unfortunately for you, you are basically putting your temporary status in jeopardy by doing that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but that is just the reality of it. And I can tell you right now, it's very different to criticize other allies of the United States. I mean, if you criticize Canada, no one's going to care. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as criticizing that country. And, to be perfectly honest, and I'm not trying to like victim blame here with this girl's case, but like you really should have known better. Yeah, you definitely should have known better. That was not very smart.
A woman writing an op-ed that's not from here is nothing compared to the people from here writing the same op-eds. What they're doing is they're basically saying I agree with you in that they're saying, do not do these things or we will deport you. We will find the thinnest of hairs of a reason to revoke your visa if you come out against us. I'm not completely in disagreement. So the reason why I say 60% when you ask me if I thought it was morally right is because obviously they don't need 6 guys swarming her in a pincer formation. One guy could have knocked on her door and said, ma'am, your visa's been revoked. I'm going to need you to come with me. We've got a black SUV you can sit in. We're going to deal with this in a rather kind of boring way. They didn't need to do that. The claim about a threat to our national security is grossly overestimated. The claim that these people have adhered to Hamas is grossly overestimated. That being said, it is still completely legal in that an individual who comes here on a conditional visa not violate the conditions of that visa.
Sure.
It's
legal. But dude, I'm asking you, like, do you think it's good for America that like college students who are here on a student visa because of political speech are being thrown into vans and having legal things be done. Sure, it's narrowly legal, but like,
torture.
they're being
sent home.
She's being put in a prison, and then she's being like forcibly deported. Do you think that's good for America? Like, this is okay. So
Marginal.
Pretty neutral towards it, to be honest. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I mean, like I said before, you know the risks when you come into the country. It's explained to you when you come into the country, the things you can and cannot do. If you decide to do things that are in violation of your visa conditions and you get deported, I mean, that sucks for you. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that, but like, it's not my problem.
Really?
Deported. Do you think that's good for America? Like, this is okay. So
Marginally.
you think what do you think is good? Even marginally, like what's the minor small benefit to America?
Do not come to our country and rally against it and its interests. I apply this to any of these.
So what is the U.S. interest that her writing an op-ed?
The Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal?
Right. The United States, the reason why the U.S. is so... I love these Jews people that are like, Israel controls the foreign policy. Oh, shut up. The U.S.
Come on, Tim. Come on.
The U.S. interest with Israel, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia has a lot to do with like the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. This is why Donald Trump is obsessed with Panama and Greenland. He wants to control the global trade routes. This is what America's largely done. That's why I say it's a gross mischaracterization to claim that an op-ed is a threat to national security, in that it is, in the smallest of senses. Students coming here and telling us to oppose or support with Israel puts us at risk in terms of the sentiment of a younger generation as to whether or not we'll fund Israel and control the Suez Canal.
But I asked you if you thought it was good to deport her.
I said marginally. Right,
because we have national interest in the Suez Canal, and she wrote an op-ed.
That's the U.S.'s interest.
Okay, so why do you think it was good to deport her?
Asserting U.S. sovereignty. Do not come to our country and tell us what to do. You've got a condition of your visa. You are a guest in this country.
Okay.
Adhere to the agreements we have.
So you think that America should be a country where, if you come here on a student visa, you're paying into our, university system. You're coming here for the reasons that, completely legally, we've invited you to come, right?
Yes.
This is why America is the country it is, partially because people like this have come for decades. If you express a political opinion that is like mildly at odds with a U.S. interest in another country of a canal, that you should be deported. You think America should be the kind of country where if somebody comes here, they write an op-ed that says literally anything about U.S. foreign policy, they should be deported. So going forward, literally everyone in the world should know if you are on foot on U.S. soil, you should not say anything in public about U.S. national priorities of any kind, or else you could be deported. Do you think it's good to have a country where that's the understanding?
All right. So you're saying...
I kind of do, to be honest. I kind of do. I like the way you say that. Yeah, if you come to our country on a visa and you're basically shitting on our country or an ally of our country, you can't be surprised when we kick you the fuck out. Beautifully said, Adam. You said that so well. Yeah, I like it.
This is what I'm trying to drill down to.
The individuals who come to this country and apply for student visas have made that agreement already. So while I would argue the deportation of Rumeysa is the thinnest of hairs, Mahmoud Khalil makes more sense. I mean, he organized and helped lead protests that resulted in damage, occupations of buildings. Several staff at the University of Columbia.
Let's stay on Rumeysa, because then we don't have to split hairs.
Right. The issue is, do not come to our country and tell us what to do. That's it. If you're here as a guest of this nation, you do not start rallying its people in opposition to the will of the voters and what the government is doing.
I mean, I really thought the point of America was, if freedom of speech was like a main value here, that I think that's why people come here. It's why I like living here, because I always felt that, hey, I can express an opinion, especially about U.S. foreign policy, and not have anything happen to me. So that's a right that only citizens have. And you think America should be a country where, if you are not literally an American citizen, if you express any opinion about U.S. foreign policy? I mean, and we both agree the opinion she expressed was pretty mild. It wasn't like a very inflammatory opinion, right? It was like, it's pretty mainstream political opinion to have. It conflicts with U.S. interests about the Suez Canal. I still don't really understand that point, but let's just say that it does.
It does.
That should be grounds for being forcibly removed from the country. And like, whether or not it's legally the case that we could do that, do you think it's good? You think it's good to have a country where things like that happen? You think a thriving country is one where people come into the country, they write an op-ed for the paper of the organization of which they're a member. She's paying tuition to go to this school.
He keeps harping on the tuition. She pays tuition, blah, 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 blah. Invited her. Like, bro, no one cares about any of that. That doesn't matter. Literally, nobody cares. I don't care if she's paid tuition, dude. Like, that doesn't matter. Who cares? It's a student visa. She's going to be leaving in a couple of years anyway. Who gives a fuck?
And she's working for the student newspaper or whatever. She's writing an op-ed. She's probably not employed there, but she's writing for the student newspaper, and that is grounds to be deported. And
Always was. I mean, so my attitude.
you think that's the kind of country America is?
Always has been. That's why
I guess that's where we fundamentally disagree.
But hold on, the Immigration and Naturalization Act has multiple provisions that outright say this is the case, and so that's why I say it's marginally good, because the issue is the U.S. asserting its sovereignty and saying, as a guest in this nation, we ask you not do certain things.
We ask you don't write we ask you don't write mildly worded op-eds about U.S. foreign policy vis-a-vis a different country's war.
Let's not load it. Let's say, do not speak out against our foreign policy.
So, okay, great. So America is a country where, if you, in your view, if you are a foreign national, you are here on a student visa, you've been invited to the country,
like 4
you
times.
should not.
Yeah, you're just saying the same fucking thing over and over again, dude. Holy fuck. Like over and over and over. So you think America is... Yes. So, but wait, let me get this straight. Yes. But what if America is a country that just... Yes. The answer is yes.
Every time.
Okay. I just want to... It's fair. To me, Tim, it's a very baffling position.
Listen, your argument...
Because you're a liberal. You're a lib shit.
That I should call for illegal activities.
Let me put it...
Let me phrase it this way.
Sure.
My attitude is, Congress has passed a law. It was passed in the House and the Senate, signed by the president and upheld by the courts. This law states it is the purview of the Secretary of State to make the decisions as to whether or not these visas can stand for a variety of reasons. I say it is marginally good. Her opinion was mild, and I don't think it... I think it's silly to claim that she's adhering to Hamas because an anti-Israel position. My point is, for the government to assert its authority under the law as codified by Congress, the president, and the courts is marginally good. Marginally is, I said 60% maybe. If I was president, I wouldn't do it. But the idea that our country asserts its authority to say, you are guests in this country and we will make the determination whether you can stay or not, is a normal process. And to argue that the government should not assert its authority when it feels it should, I think is silly.
I'm still looking.
There's a world we want to live in, and then I'll put it this way, I think people have a right to keep and bear nuclear weapons. The founding fathers were clear in their intent on the right to bear arms, which included privateers with grape shot. Now we've changed that and said only large corporations that the government approves of can have nuclear weapons. Agreed, nobody should have nuclear weapons. My point is that if you want to change the law, you have to do it through the constitutional process, and that adhering to that is typically a good thing.
I don't know how we got on nuclear weapons.
It's a point about process of law.
Yeah, but
saying the government has a right to do something. So if they choose to do it, okay. If you have a problem with it, then Congress should repeal those, specifically amend the INA to remove those provisions. It is completely legal under the United States at the will of the American people that this happen. You don't like that it's happening now, but this was the will of the voters and Congress, and it's been law for like 50 years.
Dude, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right.
Correct. We should change it then. So my point is, upholding the law is marginally good. Sometimes the law is bad, and that's why it's not always good. In this regard...
So wait, you're saying simply the fact that Marco Rubio exercised his legal authority to do something was good. It's like he had the legal authority to do it. He could have enforced this law as he saw it on anybody. He could have enforced it on a comedian, right? Who's in town and goes on stage and says, "Hey, you know what? I disagree with this or that." Or, "Hey, I just did shows in
Canada.
You're
not from Canada.
No, but I just did shows in the UK and Amsterdam, and I made fun of UK politics, made fun of American politics."
You wouldn't dare make fun of Islam, though. Go to the UK and mock Islam. Do it.
Well, I don't.
No, thank you, Tim. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get my head cut off. I'm good.
Well, I don't have any jokes about Islam.
Why not? They got Pakistani grooming games for raping little girls. Why won't you go to the UK?
What?
Why won't you go to the UK and make jokes about Islam?
I don't think it's very funny. I don't have any jokes about it. I'm so confused. Dude.
I hate this like performative thing that like liberals do. I just don't even know what to say. What? I'm so confused. I don't do jokes about that. I do jokes about other things. What? I just don't understand what's going on right now. I just don't understand it. Like, bro, stop. You know exactly what he's saying. You can't go to the UK and criticize Islam because you're going to get arrested for it. But because that's a real country that actually infringes on people's free speech rights, not America. America doesn't infringe on your free speech rights. You can basically say anything that you want, pretty much. Like, obviously, if you're on a fucking student visa and you're shitting all over the country, there's a chance that you could get kicked out. Wow, cry me a fucking river. That's a very obvious thing that you could easily prevent, and you agreed to it when you came in the country to begin with. Whereas in the UK, you have to be very careful with what you say. You can't use racial slurs. You can't talk about certain groups a certain way. You can't deny the Holocaust. You know, there's a lot of things that you just objectively, in reality today, cannot do in the UK, but you could do it in the United States. That's the point that Tim is trying to make. This is all performative. He knows exactly what Tim's trying to say here.
Okay, let me help unconfuse you. Are there jokes that can be made about Islam? Yes or no?
Wait, I don't want to. I don't want to go to this particular rabbit hole.
Oh, no. You're terrified. You're a hypocrite.
What?
Are there jokes you can make about Islam? Muhammad banged a little girl, right?
I'm really baffled.
Come on. We're terrified of this subject. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
In the UK, you can be jailed for making jokes about Islam or even bring up the grooming gangs. There are people who go online and pointed out that a stabbing was carried out by a Muslim, and they got arrested for it. I'll bet you $1,000 you will not go to the UK and make a joke about any of that stuff, because you will not go to a foreign country and, in violation of their laws, speak out against what they've said not to speak out against. Do it. I dare you. $10,000. Cash in your pocket if you go to the UK and make a joke about Muhammad having a 12-year-old wife.
I'd be like, okay, Tim, but you got to write the joke and it's got to be a banger, and then I'll do it. I'll go to jail. I'll do it, Tim. It's just, you got to write the joke.
Your pocket if you go to the UK and make a joke about Muhammad having a 12-year-old wife.
This we got here faster than I thought we would in this conversation. Where you're shouting at me about something I don't understand.
I mean, but you do understand it. You do understand it. He's pointing out an obvious double standard. I hate this performative thing that they do. I don't even understand what you're talking about, and you're yelling at me. This is a double standard. You'll criticize certain things. You won't criticize other things. Why is it okay in the UK that people get thrown in jail for criticizing a religion, yet in America being deported for shitting on America when you're not even a citizen of America is totally unacceptable in your worldview? Like, why is that, Adam?
I don't really understand how you would think it's incumbent upon me.
Do you think anybody watching this right now thinks you are confused by the notion that in the UK you go to jail for mocking Islam?
I don't understand how we got onto you shouting at me about Islam specifically. I'd like to return to
okay. It's because you said people should be allowed to come to this country and speak out against it. And you said you're a comedian, and and you go to other countries, right? And you said you go to the UK. And I said, okay, if you go to the UK, speak out in violation of their laws and see what happens. And you said, I'm confused. I don't understand. What don't you understand? Will you go to Turkey? Will you go to Turkey and speak out against Islam?
I mean, if I have a joke to make, sure. I don't have a joke about those particular topics.
You would.
I would.
You're saying if you had a joke about...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. I would try to do the best I can. I always try to poke the bear as much as I can. It's part of the job.
Bullshit. Complete fucking bullshit. You do not poke that bear, bro. You don't go to Arab countries that are predominantly Muslim and criticize Islam. You don't do that. No lib shit does that. That's just not a thing that they do. No, they sit there and run cover for Islam and the Arab world. That's what they do. The Islamic world, they run cover for it. That's what they do. Oh, yeah, they do like female genital mutilation over there, and they keep women covered in the beekeeper outfits and everything, but like that's just a different culture over there, so we shouldn't criticize it. That's basically what liberals say. It's complete garbage. But they'll sit there and criticize Christianity in the West because Christians don't like women having abortions for no fucking reason. It's like yeah, it's kind of a bit of a double standard, don't you think? I mean,
it's part of the job of a comedian
because as it pertains to one of the world's largest religions. I mean, come on.
I mean, I haven't written a joke about that recently. All right. So look, hey man, I'm a free speech guy, right? I think that something that's nice about America is that we're a country that has that value, and that we don't generally think that you should be tossed into a van and kicked out of the country for expressing an opinion. I think that it is a change. I think it's a change in America to most people around the world to feel that, oh, wait, if I go to America and I express a mild opinion about their foreign policy in my own student paper, or maybe on a stage or maybe somewhere else, I could be, without any warning to me, accosted by 6 people on the street, thrown into a van, and taken out of the country.
Oh, come on, accosted.
Let me finish. I think that's a strain. I think that's a new idea for a lot of people that America is that type of country. I think that Donald Trump's purpose is to turn America into that type of country. I think that that's bad. I think it makes the country smaller. I think it makes the country worse. I think it's a violation of most of the values that I grew up with as an American, and that's my view of what's happening in the country. Now, if you want to say, hey, I don't like free speech for foreign nationals who are in the country who express mild opinions about other countries' foreign wars, then that's your prerogative. It's a big difference between us that you don't like free speech in that way.
I mean, that's loaded language, right?
Yeah, all the language you're using is pretty loaded.
Well, you keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while exacerbate or exaggerate something else.
I do use the...
It's not really about free speech anyway. I can guarantee you that somebody like Adam Conover probably thinks that like deliberately misgendering trans people is considered to be hate speech and you should go to jail for it, or using racial slurs is hate speech and you should go to jail for it. He doesn't actually really care about free speech. That's just his way of basically making this argument and conveniently making this about, a First Amendment issue, when in reality, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, I know I already said it, but evil orange man kicks out brown people. That's all this is about. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech.
I do use the English language to express my thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's strong.
It's dishonest though. It's bad faith, is what he's saying.
It's straw manning. It's not a legitimate attack of the ideas, right? So accosted on the street. Come on. She was arrested. Okay. She was arrested by a relatively large group of men compared to what a normal arrest would require, which I think they didn't need to do and was silly. So we can say she was arrested by several men, unmarked or plain clothes, which didn't need to happen. But I don't need to say like she was accosted by men on the street and like it was about a mild opinion. It's like, okay, listen, the facts of the case, like I said, I don't like the idea that people come to this country and then try and tell us how to live our lives.
You're not for free speech. I understand.
I think American citizens have self-determination and sovereignty, but without
This is a country where if you're from another country and you're in America,
if you say the same fucking thing that you've already said half a dozen fucking times, Adam, dude, unfucking bearable. Holy shit, unbearable.
Don't say anything about our politics, or you could be forcibly removed from the country. You're comfortable with America being that kind of country.
Marginal.
That's something that's like that's a value of yours. Those are your values.
See, you're doing it again.
No, I'm trying to understand what you actually believe.
Yeah, I'd say marginally, it's a good...
Because I think that's a point of distinction. It's useful in a conversation like this to be like, okay, I have my value, you have your value. And, my value is like, I really like it when people say what the fuck they think about any country's politics.
We can simplify it. My value would just be to whatever mathematical degree, American sovereignty supersedes the right of foreigners to speak about our policies.
But in this case,
But that's just my value.
In
So we've concluded.
so you think that literally any time America is exercising its sovereignty, that's like a good thing in that particular case? Like, because
What does that mean?
Yeah, he's just babbling. I don't know why he's like bobbing and weaving his head left and right, doing the finger quote thing. Like, what in the fuck?
like
You're a guest in our...
Mark,
Yeah, you're a guest in our home. Exactly. You need to fucking behave. Now, when you're a citizen, you don't have to behave as much anymore. That's true. But until you're a citizen, you got to behave. I mean, that's not that unreasonable.
With all due respect, I think I said it like 6-7 times.
uh-huh.
You're a guest in our country. Adhere to the rules. That's it. That includes conservative Canadians, conservative Brits. That's Carl Benjamin. That's Paul Joseph Watson. That's Viva Fry. That's Seth Rogen, and it's also
Okay, so all those people
they got deported, I'd say, okay.
should not speak about American national interests, in, like the Suez Canal. We shouldn't
While
say,
here on a
the
temporary
Panama
visa.
Canal, or like,
While
was
here on a
Puerto Rico a
conditional
state or not?
visa.
They should not speak about American politics.
You can speak about what you want, but speech has consequences.
I mean,
Doesn't it?
okay, so we can move on. I'll say,
Yeah, I mean, you're making it seem as if we're throwing them in some dungeon. Like, no, they just get deported back to their home country. You know, it's like if you hate it here so much that you're criticizing it so much, go back to where you fucking came from. It's pretty reasonable.
to me, that's a
We don't care, bro. Like, oh, to me, I don't agree with that. To me, I really think that our country should have a higher standard. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up, bro. We get it. You've already said it like 10 fucking times.
radically different America than I thought I grew up in. And I think it's fucked up that we're becoming that kind of country. I think it's really
believe you
bad.
think that's true.
Yeah, you don't believe I think that's true?
Well, I mean, I suppose I
Like
could
what
say-
I just said, I believe. You're like, you don't believe that.
Well, because if we go back several administrations, that's not been the case ever. I mean, look at New York in the 2000s when the Bush administration rounded people up, and I'm sorry, it wasn't Bush, during the Bush years, and they put 200 people in like a bus. They locked them in a bus cage.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's the country you grew up in. The idea that
and it
these
was
things
bad.
haven't been happening. George Carlin got arrested for swearing. We had blasphemy
and it
laws
was
on the
bad.
book.
Yeah,
You
and it was
actually are claiming-
bad.
you-
And then we
Indeed,
said,
and you
we
grew
shouldn't
up in
do that
nation,
anymore.
and it never changed. The idea that you think you grew up in a nation where you could say whatever you wanted is an absurdity. George Carlin went to jail for swearing.
And that was good, you think?
No, it
because
wasn't.
you think it's good that Rumeysa Ozturk is being forced
She's not
to
a
leave the country.
citizen.
So
she's on a conditional visa as conditioned by the INA and the existing administration and the will of the voters.
okay, but you're arguing.
no, my argument
you're
is
arguing that
you said the
Ozturk's
country I grew
deportation makes
up in-
sense because George Carlin was arrested for swearing.
No. You said I grew up in a country with free speech, and I said, no, you did not.
And
it's
you're
never been true.
And you're like, okay, you're right. So under your view, America is a country that doesn't have free speech, never had free speech.
Yes.
And that's a good thing.
No.
Because we're exercising our sovereignty.
No.
Okay, but you think
He's just criticizing something that you said that was stupid. Oh, this is a new thing. It's really not a new thing, dude. That's all he's saying. That's it. You're reading too much into it.
it's a good thing that Rumeysa Ozturk doesn't have free speech?
Can you understand the distinction between a non-citizen here on a conditional visa and an American citizen being arrested for swearing?
I understand that there's a
Very
distinction.
different
I don't think that either of those people should be treated differently in that case.
Let me say this.
I don't agree
This
with you,
country
man.
has never had free speech.
Okay, I think.
It's a fact. When the founding fathers finalized the
Do you
Constitution,
think we should have free speech?
yes, but there are limits on what
Okay.
free speech is based on the moral worldview of the individual argument. For instance, do you believe someone should be allowed to direct someone to commit a violent crime?
That's
Yes or no?
that's not the moral worldview of an argument. That is the effect of the speech. So you think that
hold on.
whether you have free speech should be your words should be based
I'm
on the
trying
moral
to-
worldview of the argument.
So to understand
certain
your view of
arguments-
what free speech means, I'm asking you a question. If somebody says explicitly, you right now commit crime to that person, is that free speech?
Someone says you right now commit crime to that person, and what do they do it?
Yes.
I mean, I guess I'm not a free speech scholar, but like that is there's probably be legal consequences for that free speech.
Yeah. Yes. That would be a crime, Adam. You can't do that. You can't solicit someone to commit a crime. It would either be solicitation of a crime or conspiracy or something like that. These people are so stupid.
Free
It is
speech.
illegal to do that. Do you think someone should be able to yell fire in a crowded theater?
I mean, this is the canonical example of
Right.
speech that's not free speech. So.
It actually is. That's Brandenburg v. Ohio. It is, in fact, legal speech. I don't think people should. I understand the Supreme Court's ruling on that issue. The challenge with free speech, let's go back to the beginning of this country, blasphemy laws were on the books after they even had the First Amendment. Like they literally say you can't blaspheme. We would say that's not free speech, but how did you have a First Amendment if you arrested people for blaspheming? My point is, and this is an anarchist philosophy, the laws of the country are dictated by those with the power to enforce it. That's why it used to be illegal to put a pie on your windowsill, but even though it's still illegal, nobody arrests you for it. So free speech does change throughout the generations.
Of course.
We never grew up in an era, we never had a time in our lives where you had true free speech the way the absolutists want it to be.
Yeah, I'm talking about the story that we tell about ourselves as a country, man. I'm talking about
that's not true.
I'm talking about the values that we have collectively as people. And of course, those are always changing a little bit, and people are trying to pull them in one direction or another.
Split in half.
I would have thought, that. Like, I don't know that much about you. I know you're very involved with Occupy and stuff like that and protest movements, which I think is cool work. I would have thought that, like, a student writing an op-ed about another country's war and her own institution's support for it, vis-a-vis our country's foreign policy, would be the kind of thing that you would think is a sort of free speech that we should value. That is the kind of free speech that I think, I personally think, like, a lot of the idea of America is built upon. I think it's one of the good things about the country, that this is a country where you can come here and you can express your opinion mildly in the newspaper.
What happened to Kent State?
And I think Kent State was bad.
My point is, there's things we wish America was. But I kind of feel like a non-citizen.
But this one you said you think is good. You're not sitting here going, man, yeah, that's a bummer.
She got deported, dude. What are you talking about? She didn't get shot in the face. A conditional visa was revoked. I'm not crying about it. I don't care.
You're just whining about some irrelevant thing. Like, she was sent home to her home country. She's fine. Like, she's safe. It's not like we killed her or anything like that. Like, get over it.
I mean, I think she cares. I think
That's
her family cares.
bad.
I think the people of her university care. I think
change the law, man. This is a marginal issue for a single person who was in violation of the INA as it's enforced by a government that was elected by a popular majority, or I should say by a plurality, but the popular vote. So let me pull this up, because this is what we were talking about earlier. This is RCP from April 22nd. Every age bracket, to be fair, 40-49 is a tie, but Real Clear Politics aggregate shows from all of the latest polls, 70 plus is the only age group that is a negative view of Trump's job.
Okay. I'm just trying to.
This is a popular majority.
I'm just trying to make sense of your position around free speech, because
holy shit, is he just going to say the same fucking things over and over again? Why do liberals do this?
Because you agree with me about all the past things in America that you're talking about. Kent State, you're talking about George Carlin and all these other things, and these were bad abrogations of free speech.
Indeed, deportation is not a murder. You're going home. I'm giving you a ride home.
But
if you came to my house, I let you in the door, and I said, you can hang out tonight, and you started shit-talking my brother. I say, bro, I'm going to give you a ride home. I don't think you should be here. That's not an affront to someone's sovereignty or free speech. It's like the worst thing that happened to you is I gave you a ride home. Oh, I'm going to cry. She's going home. What's the problem? Home's nice. She was here conditionally. We said, hey, we kind of think you're being a dick. We're going to give you a ride home. That's it.
I mean, when I get a ride home,
Kent State,
6 guys don't normally shove me into a van, and then my family doesn't know where I am. That's
cry about it some more, please. Please, Adam, please cry more about it. We really need to hear you cry about it some more.
How about you're at a bar and you're acting out in some way, and they say, listen, buddy,
do you feel
security throws you out of the bar?
Do you feel this woman was acting out? Do you think she was acting inappropriately? Do you think that she was acting?
I've already told you I did not.
Okay,
I said,
so then how are you justifying what happened?
I don't think you can
legally narrow that it can happen. Therefore, it's good.
I don't think.
See, so he doesn't understand that these are two things that are not mutually exclusive things. Like, you can say to her, I don't really think her opinions were that severe, but also sit there and say, well, she technically was in violation of the INA as it's being currently interpreted by the Secretary of State, because the Secretary of State is saying that this woman has said things that are in conflict with American foreign policy interests, and therefore I have the authority to deport her and revoke her visa. Those two things can be true at the same time. Like,
I don't think you know how to separate. I just don't think you know how to comprehend the separation between I have no issue with a woman making her argument. I think it was absurd to claim she's adhering to Hamas because she's critical of Israel. But her visa is conditional. And it is the authority of these United States and the Secretary of State to revoke that. So it's okay.
Here, I mean, I think you'd have to give maybe some kind of a metaphor or something to explain it to him. Like, here you go. I'll try to do my best here, Adam. Holy fuck. So let's say that, like, Biden is still president. You know how liberals are saying that these white South Africans are racist, and they're only basically saying that because they're white. There's no proof or evidence whatsoever that these people are racist, but let's just go for the sake of argument. We'll just go with it and say that, well, maybe they are racist. If Joe Biden wanted to deport them because he felt that they were here conditionally on a visa and they were saying incredibly racist things about an ally of the United States, whatever ally that might be, maybe it's, I don't know, Saudi Arabia or some shit, I don't fucking know. And they were saying like openly racist things. And Joe Biden's Secretary of State said what these people are saying is in conflict with foreign policy interests, so we want to deport them. They can do that. That could have happened. There's nothing stopping that from happening. Now, I could personally disagree with that and say, like, I don't really think that what these white South Africans said was really racist. And I don't really think that what they were saying was really even that bad. But technically, the Secretary of State has the authority to do that. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive things. Like, I can recognize the authority, but also say that I personally don't think that what the person said was really that big of a deal.
Right? Trump won the popular vote.
What? But
this is the agenda.
Man. Sorry, man. This is the hump that I can't get over.
Clearly.
You don't have any problem with what she actually did, right? But Trump and Rubio had the narrow legal ability to do it.
You're not following.
Do you agree with their decision to do it?
I do not. I think there is a net negative, to a degree, that foreigners come to this country to dictate our politics. Be it Canadian, British.
Dictate our politics or just give their opinion in the newspaper that's dictating?
Let's I'll turn on the language. To come here and advocate for policies of the American people.
So you feel that foreign nationals of all kinds, when they're in the United States, should never speak about our politics ever upon pain of legal punishment that is a position that you have about America generally.
Did they agree to it? When they applied for the visa under the INA, did they agree to those terms?
I don't know.
The answer is yes.
Yes, they did. It clearly states when you're coming here on a condition, you can't do certain things. It literally says you won't protest. And we still would allow them to hold a sign up or something. But maybe if they didn't.
But apparently we don't allow them to hold a sign up.
I don't care.
So I'm not asking about what they agreed to. I'm not asking about the legal justification.
Don't agree to things you don't want to hear.
Do you, Tim Pool, believe that as a moral issue, as a practical issue? Do you think that America should be a country in which every foreign national in the country should feel that they should never speak about American politics under pain of legal punishment?
No.
You don't think that that's, you don't agree with that?
You presented me an absolute, right? You gave me the extreme end.
Okay, so Rumeysa Ozturk, I think, is a really illustrative example because it was such a mild
understand
version.
That they've made an agreement upon entering this country that if they are in violation of the terms of their visa, it may be revoked. If they come here with the intent of advocating against U.S. foreign policy, that is a consequence. Speech has consequences. I think we're getting hung up on the issue that I've clearly answered, and I understand maybe you don't understand, but
I think I've pinned you down well enough that like you just like really have a much smaller view of free speech than I do, and I think a lot of Americans do.
I don't think what you said means anything.
I think it's a change to the American spirit. I think it makes the country smaller. It's a shittier country to live in. Is a country where people live in fear of what they say when they're here on a student visa.
They always have.
Yeah, and that's bad.
So, do you think it's bad that somebody has to live in fear if maybe they like scream the N-word at a child on a playground and then a whole bunch of people threaten to kill them over it, Adam? Do you think that's also bad or no?
So, it's bad to live in fear of saying shit.
This is not. You see, this is here's the issue. I suppose
your whole bullshit culture baiting thing about the Islam stuff in England. If what you say is true, and it may be, I don't know, because I don't really give don't really follow that as
You
as
would
do.
never-
But
I just like live in my little echo chamber where we only criticize Christianity. We don't really criticize the other religions. Just like we only criticize white people, we don't really criticize non-white people in my little echo chamber. So you're just trying to like bait me into saying something I don't want to say. It's like, bro, it's pointing out a logical inconsistency with your stupid argument.
You would
about that country.
You would never go to the UK and do those things.
If I were now, look, I don't know of the policies of which you speak, okay? But if I were to be in England and I were to make a joke on their stage and I were to be put into a van and removed from a country, I would say this is a bad thing about England, and I think that the country sucks, and I think that they should change it, and I don't think people should go there anymore, and that sucks for them and it sucks for us.
You wouldn't make a joke about Islam in the United States.
Yeah, and I don't even believe him when he says that. He probably wouldn't actually take that position anyway. I mean, if people were being deported, he would say, well, they deserve it because they came over to that country with the intent of just agitating people and being an asshole. That's what he would say. Oh, that was just like if Steven Crowder did it, for example. Oh, that's just some right-wing comedian asshole who's making jokes. He's just trying to rile people up. Fuck him. I don't defend him. I'm glad he got deported. That's what he would actually say in reality, not what he's saying right here. He's just being a dishonest prick here is all he's doing.
Okay, sure. What's that meant to prove?
You don't actually believe in free speech. You fear the consequences.
Because I don't make a joke about the topic that you demand me to?
Because this topic in
I don't believe in
particular
free
has resulted
speech?
in people like a Charlie Hebdo getting murdered.
Yeah, that's bad. It's
And
bad
like
that they were murdered.
South Park tried just showing Muhammad and
Well, that would be true restriction of free speech, Adam. Not a person gets deported because they're criticizing the country's foreign policy, which they previously agreed to not do. That would be very different. Also, being murdered is a much, much worse than being deported. Just FYI, throwing that one out there.
and
bad that they were murdered.
South Park tried just showing Muhammad, and Comedy Central wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah, that's bad.
So let's see
I
you
don't
stand
agree
up
with
for that value and come out and make a joke about
I've
Islam.
stood up about free speech plenty of times. What are you
said
talking about?
Take it to the next level, brother.
Okay.
How about we do this? You believe in free speech.
Dude, this is what you do when you've lost an argument, is that you just
No, okay,
you just
you're not even
jump
arguing
to
it.
this. You just
brought
jump
it
to
up.
this. What? What'd you say?
You brought it up.
What did I? Oh, the Islam piece of it. Yeah, no.
And now I'm continuing the conversation, and you're
Yeah.
derailing into you must have lost the argument.
No, because
Brother,
because
let's stand up for South Park, for Matt Stone and Trey
Yeah,
Parker.
I stand up for them.
So go on stage and show a big picture of Muhammad.
I'm sorry. What the thing that you're doing?
Stand up for free speech, brother. Do it.
So
I'll do it with you.
So you're demanding me to go on stage and
Prove
do
you care
something
about free
specific,
speech. Prove
and
you care
unless
about
I
free-
do, I'm a coward.
I'm saying prove you-
This
I didn't say you were a
is a
coward.
this is a
I said,
bizarre
prove you care about
rhetorical
free
move.
speech.
This is a
I didn't call you-
bizarre rhetorical move.
I didn't call you a coward. I said, prove you care about free speech.
Yeah, I
do
prove-
something that creates real risk to your person for free speech.
Yeah, I speak about shit all the time, dude. I'm happy to live in America where the things I say don't create real risk to my person. In fact, if I were to say the things that you're saying, I would not be creating real risk to my person.
You don't think so?
I think that what Tim should do, and it would be a better strategy, is if he basically called him out on a double standard regarding hate speech laws, especially racial hate speech laws or something along those lines, rather than making it about religion.
I do not think so.
Then why not just do it? Prove me wrong.
Because I don't have anything in particular to say about those topics.
Just put a picture of
man.
Muhammad up and say, praise be. Prove I'm wrong.
I'm really glad we got here again because it's just very fun to sit in how weird this part of the conversation is.
Remember Charlie Hebdo?
Just babbling. That's a completely meaningless thing to say. There's so many of these like performative rhetorical things that liberals do where they just kind of like babble. Oh, it's so interesting to be here with you crazy people. The way that you crazy people think. It's just completely fucking insufferable yapping.
Remember Charlie Hebdo?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, a bunch of people were shot because they.
Put a picture of Muhammad.
Yeah, that's bad.
You think if you did that, they might want to shoot you too?
Yeah, maybe.
So you shouldn't do it.
I mean, I don't have it. Well, the particular images that they showed, I didn't think were like very funny. Like it was their right to
wouldn't
do
let
it.
South Park
but-
do it either. They censored the whole thing.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad, and I think that's contrary to American values.
Why won't the free speech people who believe we should live in this country stand up against that?
I'm sorry.
Why don't liberals talk about why that's wrong, though? Why is it just, yeah, that's a bad thing. I don't agree with murder. Oh, congratulations. Great. Great point. I would assume that you don't defend murderers. But the point, though, is that you obviously have a double standard about certain types of speech. Criticizing Christianity, that's fine. Criticizing Islam, I mean, I'm not saying you should be murdered over it, but, should you really be doing that? I mean, that's really culturally insensitive. Criticizing white people, perfectly fine. Criticizing black people, unacceptable, completely racist. Criticizing men, also perfectly fine. Criticizing women, you're a sexist piece of shit.
I'm sorry. I'm not standing up for free speech unless I do what exactly?
I didn't say the only way for you to stand up for free speech is to do something. I said, why won't people who are claiming...
You called me a hypocrite, and I don't understand what's hypocritical about me only doing jokes about the topics that I'm interested in.
That you would not go to the UK and speak in violation of their speech laws.
I mean, I went there. I made fun of their government. I talked about, the fire at Heathrow because that impacted my travel when I was there. I talked about, yeah.
You can make fun of white people, but you can't make fun of non-white people. You go to jail for that.
Okay, yeah, I think that would, if it's as you say, that sounds like if it would apply to me as a comedian.
I would not.
I think it would say that's a bad law.
I would not go to.
Yeah. Why doesn't he just say that's a bad law? He's like, as a comedian, I think that maybe could be bad. This is sort of like wishy-washy language.
I would not go to Turkey and speak out against Islam, and I would not go to the UK and violate their speech laws.
Oh, okay. So are you a coward? What's your point?
No, I actually agree with the sovereignty of nations, and if they have laws, I'm not going to violate them.
Oh, I see. I see the point that you're making. Okay. So when things are legal, they're just.
No.
Okay. So then what is your point?
Your argument is that foreigners should come here.
So one of your values is you should respect the sovereignty of other nations. But again, look, this is a
should we invade China?
This is a recent change in the way that the U.S. prosecutes and selectively enforces the laws that are on the books. And that's what happened to Rumeysa Ozturk. And again, that's like a material change in the spirit and values of America.
Just because I think we spent like an hour on the one subject.
Yeah, I've been having a great time. Yeah,
I agree. It's been fun.
I'm glad it's been fun for one of us because it's been pretty fucking unbearable to me to listen to you say the same fucking things over and over again.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
In terms, you mentioned that Trump is, it's the makings of authoritarianism and things like that. Do you think that's distinct from any other administration?
Keep going.
That was it. That was the complete thought. What do you mean keep going?
Is the authoritarian push from the Trump administration, obviously there's going to be procedural distinctions, but I mean were other administrations not also doing similar authoritarian maneuvers that were gas?
Yeah, I mean every single American administration could. I'm sure I can find things that I disagree with. Absolutely.
Why do so many of them talk like Sam Cedar? Does anyone else notice that? They have the same kind of like, yeah, I mean, I think it's quite possible that, other administrations could potentially be engaging in similar kinds of policies. Perhaps. It's like, why do they all talk like that?
Find things that I disagree with. Absolutely. And I'll agree to that and say, yeah, that's really bad. The difference is you're stumping for it when Trump does it. And I find that really interesting. Well, you're stumping for, yeah, we should deport foreign students who write an op-ed. Like that's...
Oh God, make it stop. It's like there's something with their brain where when they disagree with you on something, they just have to repeat the same. It's like a psychological torment, strategy or something like that, to just like torment you by saying the same fucking thing over and over again. It's crazy.
We should deport foreign students who write an op-ed. Like that's your... You said it's good that they did it.
Marginally good?
Yeah, okay, great. So you're stumping for it.
So
you're on your platform saying it's good.
Marginally good.
Point. Yeah.
But I think the important distinction is should implies whenever it happens. I don't agree with that. I think, as I've said a million times, I don't understand. I don't want to go back on the issue. It's an absurdity to claim that someone who's critical of Israel is pro-Hamas.
Yeah.
People who are pro-Hamas are pro-Hamas. So there are nuances in all things. What I see largely right now is Trump won the popular vote. He's got approval as of April 22nd. You know, to be fair, this is pre-tariff, so I'm sure it's gone down. But he's got general approval from most demographics except for the 70-plus bunch. And I don't see the removal of government agencies as authoritarian, especially when he promised to do it and then did it based on the people who voted for him.
You know, I'm listening to just finish an audiobook about the, rise of the Third Reich, just, boning up a little history.
The third what? Let's hear that one again.
Just finish an audiobook about the, rise of the Third Reich, just,
Reich? I've never heard it pronounced that way. The rise of the Third Reich. Okay.
Boning up a little history. And, one of the first things that they do is that, they destroy the civil service, right? And that kind of state capacity, frighten those people, get them to fall into line. And that's what a big part of what Trump has done. And I think it's been like really effective,
Frightening who?
Frightening like the actual people who work in the civil service, right?
He
like
fired.
Yeah. Well, firing them and frightening the rest, right? And getting them to behave differently, installing loyalists, stuff like that. I think that's plainly
literally every administration appoints people who agree with them on politics, dude. Everything comes back to Hitler. It's all about Hitler. It's like everything comes full circle. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. When you're talking to liberals, it all comes back to the one guy with the silly mustache.
Installing loyalists, stuff like that. I think that's plainly authoritarian. Yeah, every administration will change out the department heads. They won't. There's. I did a show about the U.S. government, and I met some department heads who are like, "Oh, this person's a political appointee, and they're not that bright, right?" From both both administrations, but the civil service underneath them, right? The people who are like the trained experts, the weather scientists at NOAA, the regulators at like the FDIC who keep your bank balance safe, stuff like that. Been wiping those people out and replacing the actual people with expertise with loyalists, right? And that's where you end up with, the primary value is loyalty to Trump rather than actually getting the thing done properly. And
if an actual thing happens as a result of any of the things that you're talking about, we can have a conversation about it once it happens. If he appoints some dipshit in the FDIC and there's some huge, financial fuck up, then we can have a conversation about it. But until that happens, I don't really care about your personal opinion as to who is or is not competent as far as any of these positions go. I mean, to be honest, I just don't really care.
And, the DEI push to that's a fig leaf for, removing people who are not sufficiently loyal as well as, there's a lot of reasons that they're doing that.
I'll say on that regard,
it's all pretty.
I won't make a direct counter argument to that, but I do think that's pretty assumptive.
Oh yeah, I'm making a claim and you can get into it or not.
Yeah, it's trying to read into the intent, which may or may not be correct. Maybe.
Yes, I think it may or may not be correct. That is my view, though.
Right. My point is, and I respect that. Your view is based on those actions. There actually absolutely is an easy vehicle for firing people if your move is DEI. It's like these people here, I don't want them here. Oh, you were hired incorrectly. You're part of a department. I don't want to get rid of them. On the surface, outside of that, I think the DEI stuff is illegal. And I'm glad to see it purged and removed. I think it violates the Civil Rights Act. DEI programs, you think violate the Civil Rights Act? Yeah, I think, there's an interesting conversation around what is legal and what's not. A lot of people think if SCOTUS has it true, it's legal. I don't think that's fair because that would mean that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned, but I think most liberals think it shouldn't have been. So they would argue that it wasn't constitutional or legal. But the Civil Rights Act says we're not supposed to discriminate on the basis of race, sex, religion, gender, et cetera. And when you create DEI programs where you're specifically targeting based on those factors, you're in clear violation of the Civil Rights Act. So, you got to amend the law or change it or create new provisions. But how I grew up, I would never want to be in a circumstance where race was a determining factor and whether or not I could get into school or get a job.
Yeah, neither would I. But for a lot of people, it fucking is, man.
But that's why we got the Civil Rights Act. And you have a right to sue the institution.
What does he mean? It's I know what he means when he says that, but it's literally the opposite that's true today. He's living in this fantasy world 100 years ago or something like that, where it actually would have played a role. It's just completely make-believe.
But that's why we got the Civil Rights Act. And you have a right to sue the institutions that are in violation of that. And through those laws, we've eliminated largely blockbusting and redlining. And then Democrats largely started to enact...
There's a lot of redlining still, but it's better than it used to be.
It's true.
Redlining doesn't mean a black person doesn't get a loan, dipshit. You know that, right? It's a specific practice where they drew red lines on a map and they said these people are not creditworthy. Don't lend to them. It's been gone for a long time, you fucking idiot.
And that shouldn't be allowed. And it's through the Civil Rights Act, through the lawsuits, we've gotten rid of those things. I don't understand how we've circled back, and it's largely through the liberal side of things, to start using race again. That's crazy to me.
To start using race again.
Well, let me clarify that. Obviously, everybody always was secretly trying to use race because this country has a history. I don't think it's fair to say just this country, but people are racist. I think everybody's racist. And we're trying our best, I think, civilizationally, to be like, let's stop doing that. But there are a lot of people that don't because they're racist. So when I see, I don't care if it's a white redneck dude saying he doesn't like black people or whatever, these people online that want to make, anytime they post a video, they like, they'll post a video of black people committing a crime, and it's like, brother, I could find videos too of white people committing crimes. If you want to do like a multivariate study of every single instance of video crime or whatever, we could. There are FBI crime sets, I get that. But there are racist people out there.
That's really not a genuine thing to say. I could find videos of white people do, okay, sure, but would you have to try harder a little bit to find videos of white people?
But the Democrats are still engaged in racist practices through DEI and gender-based discrimination, et cetera, which is just clear violation of every title of the Civil Rights Act.
I mean, there's a million different programs that get lumped in as DEI. I'm interested to know, you do think racism like exists in America, and it's a problem that we should keep fighting?
Profoundly exists in this country, and I think I don't think it'll ever go away. I think we have the proximity is the best cure. You know, you grow up around people and you understand they're good people, you tolerate them. I think we have a challenge with enclaves. So you'll find, and I think a lot of conservatives need to hear this too, because I was in Virginia near Hampton Roads. There's a lot of racism there. And I mean like literally white areas that are predominantly white that don't like black people, don't like Mexicans, don't like Chinese people. And that exists. And they're going to be racist. But you get a similar but different kind of function in white uppity liberal conclaves too. Yeah. And so I do think it's a problem. But the problem that I see now is affluent white liberals who have this, let me use an example. Do you know about the Yale study that found that white liberals they reduce their vocabularies to talk to black people?
I do not know about it, but it sounds like it could be true. Like it sounds anecdotally, yeah. There's a lot of racist white liberals.
They present themselves as less competent in interactions with African Americans.
Yeah,
conservatives tend not to, but there still are obviously like racist parts of the South, especially in the South.
Racist parts all over America. And by the way, racism isn't unique to white people either.
Right.
To be fair, if white liberals are doing that, it's probably mostly because they are aware that black people do talk a certain way, and they're just trying to relate to them and sound friendly to them. That may sound like, kind of weird to say it like that. Oh, they're dumbing down the language because they want to communicate with them better and they want them to feel comfortable. But like, yes, that is it. That is basically it. I mean,
brother, go to Asia. Anybody who's been to China or Japan or Korea, it's like,
well, in America we have a form of racism that's like based around white supremacy, but it's like non-white people can like participate and like be a part of it.
I think
we don't have that though. We have the opposite of that, if anything.
That exists, but I don't think it's the predominant anymore. It may be largely.
So let me ask you this: when there's a plane crash or a fire or something like that, and the Trump administration, the first thing they do is they say, too many black air traffic controllers. Like that's the first thing they do.
When did they say that?
Yeah, Trump didn't actually say that though, stupid.
That was like immediately they just come out and they're like DEI in the FAA, that's the problem. That was like the first thing Trump came out and did, and then that became the narrative.
Maybe. All I can tell you is,
does that seem like racism to you? Because it does to me.
What I can tell you is I interviewed the Secretary of Transportation. He actually rejected that premise.
Oh, that he rejected the premise that, sorry.
Right, so I asked Secretary Duffy, are we actually seeing an increase in these airline accidents? Because we've seen these high-profile stories. Some have argued it's DEI finally catching up, which I don't think makes sense. That all of a sudden just planes crash because they hired diverse people or whatever. And Duffy said no. He said we've not seen a significant uptake. It's largely just a phenomenon of the media, and people are getting riled up. And of course, the right wants to say it's because of DEI, which makes no sense. The left is saying it's because of the Trump administration, which makes no sense. The issue is, we had stories that were sensationalized in the media. People perceived an increase in air traffic accidents, but we are going to try and streamline and fix the FAA.
Yeah, no, I felt that.
So this is not correct. So there has been an increase in near miss events, is what they call them. incidents where there could have been an accident and it got close to being an accident, but luckily it didn't turn into an accident, those have gone up considerably. But I don't think it's just as simple as saying, well, DEI is the reason for it. I think it's because certain airspaces have become more congested. That's mainly the reason for it. But Tim is wrong to sit there and say the right is saying DEI is the problem, the left is saying that Trump is the problem. There are certain DEI programs in the FAA that you can look towards and see that it was obviously an anti-white policy that basically led to less competent air traffic controllers being hired.
Well, look, the air traffic controller system is in a obviously a terrible state, and that's problem.
Did you see the computers they have?
The Newark thing is, I mean, look,
Yeah.
there's something to be said for old computers. You know, there's a lot of people who make a lot of hay about, government systems being written in Fortran and COBOL, but that stuff is actually really like future proof. You know, like it's old code bases that are like really well run and stuff.
It's not future proof. It's subject to ICS hacks. It's insane.
In some cases, I've read engineering analyses for like, in some cases we don't need to make fun of the old code. It's okay to have old code. Same reason why, hey, punch cards weren't so bad for voting sometimes. Like the old shit works well in some cases. But the FAA, air traffic control, we got to fix it up. It's an infrastructure problem in the country. And so based on what, and I believe that a lot of the crashes were clustering, right? A couple crashes happen in short order.
Right.
Happens
Media.
randomly. Well, not just media, it's like the human psychology, right?
Right.
Three random events happen together and you think a whole lot are happening all at once. But like Donald Trump, the man, the human being, his literal first response was to come out and go, too many black air traffic controllers, too many. I mean, I'm paraphrasing for comedy.
Yeah, I don't think he specifically said black people.
No, he didn't say black people. He said DEI. He blamed it on DEI immediately. And there is this odd, look, I'm not a fan of.
He didn't blame it on DEI. He brought up DEI as a possible cause, was what he did. That's not the same thing. I mean, obviously, you're going to discuss problems in the aviation industry after there was a recent aviation incident. So I don't really see why it was really that big of a deal, to be honest.
Look, I'm not a fan of corporate DEI programs, especially. The right was really smart to seize on DEI as a slur to tar all attempts to address racism with, because it's an acronym.
They're calling it didn't earn it.
Yeah. I've been through some seminars that were like a waste of time or whatever, kind of annoying. And I think that, the corporate response to, George Floyd's murder and everything that happened afterwards was like pretty toothless and stupid. But I find it bizarre to watch the right, like something goes wrong and they're immediately like, oh, the problem is that we have a woman fire chief, or we have a, people of color air traffic controllers. It's like, oh, that's just straight up racism. Like,
it's a communication.
Wow, but
failure.
you've somehow done a little loop-de-loop where you're like, oh, I think DEI is racist. Therefore, me yelling at black people in positions of power is not racist.
I mean,
you see an incident where somebody is clearly incompetent, like that police chief in the Palisades fire, I'm assuming is what he's talking about here. And that person was very obviously incompetent. And you're sitting there looking at it, okay, this is like a gay, lesbian, black woman or whatever the fuck she was. And you're basically just trying to put the pieces together. Like, why did she get hired? And obviously people are going to suspect that that's the reason why she got hired in a place like California. I mean, people are just going to suspect that naturally.
But that's not the case. I mean, the right wanted to elect Larry Elder to governor of California. The meme among all conservatives is that Clarence Thomas should clone himself and replace every other Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the rush to blame these infrastructure problems on.
So I would call that a failure of communication for sure. The issue,
call it racism,
but it's not the target. The target is people who are hired without passing, not the fact that they're black. So Charlie Kirk got a lot of flack for this because he said, I go on a plane, I see a black pilot, and I think, am I supposed to be worried?
Yeah, well, that's racist.
But the point he was making was he was calling you racist, dude, and you guys didn't get that. He said, you have created a situation where average people think you are hiring people who can't do the job based on race, and we don't want to live that way.
I mean, he's the one getting on the plane and seeing a black person and saying that person's not qualified. I don't get it.
That's not what he's saying. He says Democrats are intentionally hiring underqualified people based on race. Why are they putting us in a situation like this?
He's saying that if a black person is in the seat, it means they're unqualified. That's his assertion.
No, he's saying he does.
Yes, but he's saying that the person is there because of these policies, dude. Like, holy fuck. Why do you have to hold his hand and bring him directly to the point? Just explain it to him like he's a fucking child.
He's saying that if a black person is in the seat, it means they're unqualified. That's his assertion.
No, he's saying he doesn't know because he knows you are advocating for it.
I'm just listening to the words that he's saying. It seems pretty straightforward.
I would say that when the left and the right only listen to the surface level clips and arguments, they don't actually understand what the person is conveying. And so the argument then is Charlie Kirk is a racist, which is not true. Charlie Kirk's point on that plane was, let's just map it out 1, 2, 3. Democrats have created policies by which they will put people in positions of authority who don't have the same caliber, degree, or have passed certain tests because of race. We've seen policies where they will actually go down the list of top candidates until they get to a race. This creates a concern among people that that individuals are being hired without the capability based on race. That's the idea he's trying to convey. Not that he doesn't want to fly with the black pilot.
Think that when you think that in the time when we only had white pilots or white executives or white whatever, all those people were hired on merit. None of them floated through for some other reason. Like,
there may have been a little bit of nepotism here and there, but basically, yes. Basically, it was almost entirely merit. Yes.
Like
nepotism.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's
I bet some people gave BJs.
Yeah, exactly. The systems are like they already do that for everybody. So
it wasn't based on
that's not the same thing though, stupid. And also that's wrong too. Nobody defends that. You know, what people are arguing is that including race into it as well would just make it worse. Now you have another thing that people are being hired over, which is not merit based. That's what people are saying.
So systems are like they already do that for everybody. So
it wasn't based on race.
So for him to go in and say, when I see a black person, that's when I think that, not
because
when I see a white person.
Your policy is.
Why would he think that today, but he wouldn't have thought that 50 years ago, though, Adam? This is the thing that's so annoying about these people. Like, yeah, times are different today. We didn't have these kinds of policies 50 years ago. Charlie Kirk probably wouldn't feel uncomfortable getting on a plane 50 years ago and seeing a black pilot because he knows that the black pilot's probably really good. In fact, maybe he might think the opposite. I guess if you're taking the liberal argument, you would say there was kind of a culture where they may have tended to prefer to hire white people. So you would be actually extra comfortable with a black pilot 50 years ago because you know that he's good enough to impress those people. But the problem is today it's the opposite.
Then that's racist on his part because he's only focusing on when the black people.
But it's because the policy is race based.
Crickets. This is the part where you're supposed to say something back.
But the policy is race and gender based. And so the issue is not Charlie Kirk saying he doesn't like black people. He's saying Democrats are hiring people who are less qualified based on race. This is creating a concern for people, which we don't want to experience.
So the counter argument would be, if you have a system that has no black people in it, right? You have a pool of people doing the job that has no black people in it. That clearly is not based on merit because, black people are X percent of the population, and surely some would have gotten through if it was really based on nothing but merit. So some of the existing white people must actually not have gotten there via merit. It must be because of a race-based system. So instead, let's adjust the system so that we give everybody an equal opportunity. That is going to mean that there are going to be more black people in the system. Now that happens, he now gets on the plane, he sees a black person, and he says, now it seems they seem unqualified to me. That's pretty straightforwardly racist.
So he's just doing like a racism of the gaps thing here is all that is. He's basically saying that, well, there weren't black pilots before, which isn't true. There were black pilots before, stupid. But, there weren't black pilots before, and now there are some. So we're assuming that they got hired because of this DEI practice. It's like, dude, the DEI practices are a real thing that exists. You look at some of these airlines and you probably could make the argument that they are tending to hire people based on their race. They're giving a racial preference to their hiring practices. I think that you probably could easily make that argument. And that's all that Charlie Kirk is pointing out. It's really not that complicated.
I actually think that it was racist systems that kept out qualified candidates. What I would say to your argument is the only distinction between what you said and white nationalists is that you want a system to bring those people in and white nationalists don't. So you both the left and the right agree that there is some kind of phenomenon where black people should be qualified and aren't qualifying. I disagree with that. I think that there were institutions throughout history that hampered the process by which minorities were able to go to schools to effectively get those degrees. It's very difficult. The liberal argument floats dangerously close, I think, to what white nationalists are hoping for. It's not to say you're wrong or anything, but it's a similar argument. That is the implication. So I'll put it this way: Ben and Jerry's. Do you know what the 1350 is? They call it the 1350.
Is that a Ben and Jerry's thing?
Yeah, not intentionally, but this was like, holy shit, brother! Like maybe you shouldn't be tweeting this. The 1350 is a meme which references despite being 13% of the population, black people commit 50% of the crimes. And so that is a meme shared among white nationalists. Ben and Jerry's put out the exact same meme, but tried approaching it from a DEI standpoint. And this lit the fucking internet up with people mocking Ben and Jerry's, being like, holy shit, they've gone full white nationalists. They said, despite making up 13% of the population, black people make up 50% of the arrests. And the white nationalists said, you're correct, 100% correct. We agree with you on everything, and started cheering for Ben and Jerry's. And I was like, whoa, guys, don't take their arguments from them. Like, I think it's fair to say that there are racist, components of racism that have existed throughout this country for a long time. The solution would be colorblind hiring processes and educational benefits that target class and not race, because then you remove the racial component from the argument completely, instead of creating a racial argument for the white nationalists.
But if you admit that people in America are racist, you can't build systems that are completely blind to race, or you have race then you have individual racists continuing to exert their power over the system.
So what? So what? I mean, again, it's what can you do about that? People are going to have their personal opinions about groups of people. You can't really do anything about it.
So what you do is...
you accept racism. You're just like, okay, yeah, racism will continue to affect every part of the system.
And we can mitigate it, right? So for instance, for hiring practices...
I mean, really, like, this argument that white people have this huge in-group preference is really just not borne out by the data anyway. When you actually look at the data and the studies that look at in-group and out-group preferences, white people really don't have an in-group preference. Other races do have in-group preferences, particularly black people. So if you were to actually take what Adam Conover is saying and actually like follow it to its conclusion, you would find that actually like white people would be the least racist people that could ever make these decisions anyway. So this is just stupid. He just doesn't know anything about any of this.
Racism will continue to affect every part of the system.
And we can mitigate it, right? So for instance, for hiring practices, when it comes to the hiring managers, they should have no access to the name or the race of the individual. It should literally be, here's the resume, here's their qualifications, is it a yes or a no? And what we do then is...
But obviously they see the person in person during the job interview, Tim, so I don't really know what difference that would make, but okay.
I mean, the Trump administration literally just treats any black person as unqualified and fires them from the federal government. Like...
What in the fuck? What in the flying fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, I know people have made the argument that he like only has one black person in his administration or something like that, meaning his cabinet. I don't think he's just firing all the black people from the entire federal government, you fucking idiot.
That's what Pete Hegseth is doing in the Department of Defense. It's just like out and out racism, it's like a racial purge of the government. It's really bizarre. They're trying to like resegregate the country.
Where did that happen where they were firing black people?
I mean, I don't know the names off the top of my head, but...
yeah, I just don't even know. It's just happening. Just trust me, bro. It's totally a thing.
Yeah.
That sounds not true.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, because like, I'll put it this way.
Yeah, I made it up. It's not true. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, because like, I'll put it this way. Even if it were true, it's so overt that like...
Yeah, they're being really overt about it. I mean, Donald Trump is going on television and going, planes are crashing because of DEI. So it's
but DEI
really,
is a philosophy, it's an ideology.
He also didn't specifically say that. He said something that was much more generic than that. He didn't specifically say that anyway.
Saying because they're unqualified air traffic controllers because they were hired because they're people of color. It's racist. He's racist.
There literally was a program under the Obama administration that restricted the number of new air traffic controller applicants, and it was a race-based DEI system. It literally was a real thing. There were lawsuits over it, and there have been air traffic controller shortages. So yeah, it's not really like that much of a stretch to point out that this is potentially a part of the problem.
He's a racist man, and he's issuing racist policy, and the entire country is going along with it because we're in a period of white racial backlash.
When do you think he became racist?
I think he's been racist his whole fucking life.
How did he win all those awards then? Like, or like those accolades and like
I don't know what accolades he won. He's won accolades.
Yeah, he was like a civil rights leader awards and shit.
Donald Trump has won civil rights leader awards.
Let me see if I can find something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's. I mean, awards are dumb, so I don't.
They are dumb.
I think he won them because awards are stupid. Like, I don't know. Bad job, awards committee for giving the.
He did get the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, but there's a correction. It wasn't particularly over racial issues. I don't know what that means.
You love Trump so much. It's funny you're pulling up his awards.
I don't know why you think I love.
He's won so many racial awards.
I think it's weird that you think I love Trump.
I mean,
yeah, it's kind of weird how you think everyone that disagrees with you on politics is just some Trump sycophant. It's like, bro, you make up random shit. He's racist his whole life. Well, why? Oh, I don't know. Well, he's firing all these black people. Really? Who did he fire? I don't know. Just people. He's firing lots of people. Do you know anything about what you're talking about? Nah, not really.
It's this shit all over again of the first Trump term of, quote, stop making me defend Trump was the trope, where Trump would do something that was like, I wonder why I did that. The left would then lie about what he did. And when we come out and say, but he didn't do that, they'd say, stop defending Trump. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah, this is a great point, actually. This is very, very real. I mean, they would just say so much shit about Trump that was just objectively false. If you sit there and point out like, oh yeah, these things are not true. He didn't actually salute that North Korean general, or, the suckers and losers, very fine people. Like, none of that really was real, or it's completely out of context. When you actually look into the story, you realize this wasn't true, or that he was mocking that journalist when he was making that like awkward gesture, that he was mocking a journalist who had a disability. That wasn't true. He had made a similar gesture mocking, I think it was either Rubio or Ted Cruz, I can't remember which one. He had done that before, and he had not personally seen that journalist in over a year. Just to give one example of one stupid thing that liberals say about him that's not true, but there's many, many, many examples of them. And if you point out that like, yeah, these things are actually not true, I looked into them, they just basically say that, oh, you're just like a Trump derangement cultist guy. You have Trump, you're just a Trump cultist guy. You're just brainwashed. They don't actually like really engage with you.
And when we come out and say, but he didn't do that, they'd say, stop defending Trump. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like the very fine people hoax, the Shinzo, the koi fish hoax, the fucking injecting bleach stuff. It's like, bro, Donald Trump dumped food into a fish pond after Shinzo Abe did. Why are you trying to make that a negative story?
I don't even know what that was like.
It's all of these hoaxes. The very fine people hoax.
I mean, I remember the line. Yeah,
Trump never called Nazis fine people.
He said there were very fine people on both sides,
except the neo-Nazis and white nationalists who should be condemned totally.
He said that?
Yeah. I'm not surprised that you don't know, but yes, he did.
Holy shit. Brother,
I don't live in your bubble, man.
You don't live in the fucking news, dude.
The bubble of people who actually look into shit before just assuming the thing is true because it reaffirms their biases. Oh, okay. Yeah, that bubble.
Come the fuck on. You don't read the fucking news. This is what fucking blows my mind.
No, I just don't have your obsessions.
Trump did not call neo-Nazis and white supremacists very
obsessions.
Fine people. Bro, it's been almost 10 years and you still think he did. That's what's fucked up.
I didn't say I think he did. I just don't know what you're talking about because I don't listen to your shit.
It's not.
You do know what he's talking about, though. He said that the Nazis were very fine people. That's a very common liberal talking point. They say it over and over and over again. It's not true. You know exactly what he's talking about. Again, this whole performative pretending like, I don't even know what you're talking about. What? Huh? Trump said a thing once? What? What do you mean?
It's not about listening to my shit, bro. It's reading the news. It's fact checking. Bro, I got Snopes for you. They're not a conservative publication. Even Snopes was like, guys, stop saying this.
I don't know why you're shouting at me. I was just asking you to explain.
Because the issue we have, and I apologize, because I'm not trying to shout at you. I'm shouting in exasperation that we've had two liberals on in the past 2 weeks who didn't know this. And I'm just like, for the love of all is holy, all I do all day is I read probably 500 news articles every single day from CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC, and all their aggregates. And then liberals come on and they believe things that were debunked 8 years ago.
I didn't say I believed it. I was just asking what you were talking about.
You didn't know this.
Yeah, I don't know everything that you know.
But this is what Biden launched his campaign on. Biden made a public announcement to launch his presidency in 2020 off of this lie. And you didn't know that. 5 years later.
I don't know why you're getting on me about this, but
again, I apologize. I'm not trying to get on you. It's the exasperation largely with liberals. Like, this is when this happened, and like the Covington kids hoax, you remember that one?
I'm so glad that kid sued and made millions of dollars off of it. What a bunch of bullshit.
And like the Covington kids hoax, you remember that one? Kids on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial back, this is 7 years ago. And
and the kid that was smirking or whatever.
the Native American guy goes up in his face, banging a drum.
Yeah.
And CNN gets sued over it. All these outlets, all these journalists were pushing this lie. And I was just thinking to myself,
Resistance 1.0 stuff was cringy, sure, yeah.
Resistance 1.0 stuff was cringy. I don't know what the fuck, okay? Yeah, it's cringy to imply that a minor is a racist for literally no reason. Yeah, that's cringy, okay. It's more like an incredibly horrible thing to do, and you're potentially ruining his life for no reason. But yeah, you can call it cringy, I suppose.
I mean, here we are today. We had a journalist on. She's a Brooklyn journalist, and I thought she was very nice. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but she was like, no, Trump did this. And we're just like, I don't understand how we've come to this point where there are so many stories like the Penguin Island hoax, Very Fine People hoax, Covington injecting bleach, Maryland man. It's like the media just lies and the liberals believe all of it.
Look, man, so I'll tell you what it looks like from my side, which is that it looks like Trump does stuff that is either completely fucking moronic or completely indefensible, right? And then you guys find one detail, right, where you reinterpret or you find a place where like, oh, the liberal media went too far. Yeah, sure, whatever.
This is wild because you're doing literally the exact thing that you're claiming that Tim is doing. These were objective things that happened that Trump did not do, period. And you're sitting there saying, oh, well, you're cherry picking this one thing and you're trying to make it into something to defend him. Like, no, you're cherry picking a one thing and you're trying to completely misconstrue the situation to make it into something completely different. You're literally doing that, dude.
And then like harp on that one little point forever.
Yeah, the one little point that Trump actually did say that the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists deserve to be condemned. Yeah, that one little point, idiot, that is the whole fucking point. That's the whole fucking point of taking him out of context, was to make him look like a Nazi. That was literally the point.
And then miss like the larger thing that's happening to distract from it. In the same way that, again, we're talking about Rumeysa Ozturk, and it's like, was it legally possible? And like, blah, blah, blah. And like, what's the narrow legal justification when it's like, do we want to be a country where, you can come here and speak your mind or not?
This guy.
I don't want to talk about Brian Tyler Cohen.
You know who he is?
Yeah, of course. But let's talk about something else. Do we have to talk about what some other guy who's not me said?
I'm not talking about what he said.
Okay.
I'm making a point where you said you guys harp on one thing.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, but you're cool with talking about how Charlie Kirk is a racist piece of shit because of a comment that he made about black pilots. But okay.
This guy, David Pakman as well, and many of the other most prominent liberal podcasts.
I won't defend any of these people,
and that's fine. I'm only bringing this up because you made the point that you guys find one thing and then harp on that. I don't.
Look, dude, I'm just a little bored of this, like, sort of 10 minutes of conversation, because I'm like, I don't say this stuff, and like it feels like
you just
this
said
is a thing.
Even if you personally didn't say the thing, why can't you have a conversation about it? Why is it so hard for you to just have a conversation about something that you didn't say? Just give your opinion about it. You don't have to sit there and say anything about Brian Tyler Cohen. Just be like, well, this is how I feel about it.
Conversation, because I'm like, I don't say this stuff, and like it feels like this is a thing to like fill air with, rather than talking about what's actually happening.
You
it's
just
to complain
accused
about
me of
what the
doing
liberal
something.
media says. Okay, sure.
Okay. Should I just say?
Okay.
Or should I have a conversation?
Make your points. Your show. It's cool.
What we've been seeing prominently, there are three areas in the podcasting space. There is the liberal, like this guy, where every single video he makes is Trump. Literally every single one. Not to be fair, figuratively, because like every 10th video might be one other person. All just generic screenshots of Trump. Hey, look, Cory Booker, and nothing else. And he gets 200 million views per month. Okay, I do a show where we talk about whatever the news may be, which includes AI, solar storms. We talked about power outages, India, Pakistan, talk about everything. Trump comes up prominently, he's the president, but we don't defend literally everything he does. But you come and say, you guys do it as if I am, and I'm not.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My concern is, when I look at the prominent left podcasts, they do. There's a distinction between the left and the right that I think is important. The left calls the right everyone from anarchists to neo-Nazis, which clearly don't align. It makes no sense. There's sovereign citizen anarchists with, nebulous political views beyond that, called the right wing. There's
you
neo-Nazis
don't think
called
you
the right wing.
caricature the left at all? You don't think you lump them all in together? You don't think you engage in, the
We do not.
Same, okay.
For instance, we often make the distinction that leftists are pro-guns and liberals are not. We recognize the distinction between a progressive and a moderate liberal, or like Gavin Newsom and, say, an Antifa protester. They're very distinct.
Yeah.
And so we always draw that distinction. Liberals, where I will lump them together, do not. So this is like...
That's a fair point. Liberals basically do consider everyone to the right of them as to just be like MAGA cultist, right-wingers, probably racist, almost certainly racist, and hates immigrants and hates brown people and hates this and that, right? That is true. They kind of do that.
This is like... But you literally are, because you're saying that like liberals do that to the right. I am sitting here. You'd probably define me as a liberal or a leftist.
This is anecdotal.
Whatever you want to say. But like, I also believe myself to have a nuanced view of the variety of political positions on the right?
And the point...
You don't have a nuanced view, dude. You have a lib shit view.
I'm
There's nothing that you said in these 2 hours that would make me think you have a nuanced view about basically anything.
Of the variety of political positions on the right?
And the point I'm bringing up is not pertaining to you as an individual, because we understand that it could be granular. The point I'm making is, say, ADL, for instance, and other left-aligned political organizations use the phrase "the right" to represent anything not left.
I wouldn't define the ADL as a left political organization at this point, but
perhaps I would agree with, yeah. Like at this point, it's very weird. Where
it is though, but okay.
The
pro-Israel.
The politics of to me, it's less about Israel. It's more about what's happening in Gaza specifically, and
yes,
like that, But yeah, is the and they've been like bizarrely sort of pro-Trump in all these like weird ways. They came out when they were like tweeting about Elon's Heil Hitler salute, going, don't worry about this too much. Like it's fine. Like that's very odd.
It's Israel.
I mean, it's not really that odd because it wasn't actually a Nazi salute, though. That's the problem.
Elon has been pro-Israel. He's been, making statements in favor of them. And so I think
it could also just be that the ADL doesn't want to create a situation where every time somebody lifts their arm awkwardly, we're calling that a Nazi salute. They just don't want to do that because that basically makes actual Nazis look less, dangerous, or that makes them look less serious or something like that. That could also obviously be the case potentially.
Making statements in favor of them. And so I think especially when we're talking about like Rumeysa and all that stuff, Israel is the issue. The reason why they wanted to ban TikTok is because of Israel. And when they come out and make these arguments about anti-Semitism, they're not talking about any other bigotry or racism. So I'll agree with you on the ADL thing. As of now, they're leaning more into Trump camp because Trump is pro-Israel.
Yeah, the politics of like, there's some really weird shit happening with politics when they go after a student protester, right? Because I look at Trump's coalition and go, he's got a lot of fucking anti-Semites on his side for sure. Like all the anti-Semites are definitely Trump fans, but so are the like fascist Israeli.
I gotta pause.
Yeah, you're completely off the mark. Again, this is more example of you not having a nuanced take. Because you're terrible at this, bro. You don't know anything about this stuff.
You've had the best hair in media the whole time. You still do. Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it, Tim. Thanks so much.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Follow me on X and Instagram at TimCast. We'll see y'all next time.
Oh, man, that was a long 2 hours. I mean, he just continued to bring up the same points over and over again about the Middle Eastern girl who was getting deported over her op-ed piece. He just continued to bring it up over and over again, as some of these comments crack me up. 2 hours of Adam ruins his career a second time. It's pretty funny. I mean, obviously, I get that, the Joe Rogan thing was also very embarrassingly bad. I don't think he was as bad this time, but he's just unbearable. Trump is racist. How is Trump racist? He's always been racist. provides evidence. You love Trump so much. Yeah, this is basically it. It's basically it. I mean, you sit there and refute their point. They're just like, why are you defending Trump? You know, it's like, there's just no point. There's no point in having like an actual conversation with any of these fucking people.
Folks, my name is Adam Conover. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he's terrible, man. He's really, really bad. Are there any comments? Damn, that's a quiet crowd. I guess these people attend comedy shows just to sit there with a dead look on their face. Tough crowd. It wasn't hilarious, but it wasn't horrible. It was pretty horrible, to be honest. I mean, this was rough. That crowd is soaring. This is not funny like at all. Yeah, I think his routine really should be to talk about the show and then kind of like make up stories about the production of the show and the people he's met on the show and experiences he's had on the show, because then it would be kind of doing fan service, because I guarantee you a lot of the people who show up to his comedy shows are just fans of his show. That's why he was famous to begin with, so that makes sense. Maybe, you know, something like that. Maybe he should hire like an actual professional comedian, because he's terrible. This is a thing that happens. That's not true. I didn't say it was. Pretty clear fascist takeover. This is what indoctrination looks like. Adam ruins his own argument. You're shouting at me for something I don't understand is not a flex. This guy is a disingenuous tool. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. I just can't believe he spent so much fucking time talking about the one person, and that his whole argument basically revolved around that one person that he continued to talk about over and over and over again for like literally an hour and a half. Holy shit.